It's been a minute. January is always a hard month. And if you've been watching, you know I did the no spend January. It went very well, I have to say. But it's also when my mother has her birthday up in Canada. And so I have to fly up there for a week or so because I want to be with her. She just turned 103. That's why I haven't been on. Today, I wanted to talk about something that I've been noticing, and that's AI. AI, I've been noticing people aren't aware of what's happening. So I get a lot of things sent to me, these stories. And it's not just AI. I guess it's the internet, but it's getting worse with AI because you can't tell if it's real or not. And that's a hard thing. One of my favorite AI things is a little kid dancing, a 4-year-old dancing, doing all these fancy foot moves and all that. And you're like, wow. And then you realize, oh, wait a minute, that's not true. Or those people that are singing songs and wow, did they have a beautiful voice? Guess what? That's not his voice. That's AI. And they don't even have to learn to lip sync. They can just do it and AI does it for them. Yeah, AI is a really cool tool. And I don't want to be disparaging about it at all because I love it. But we have to be aware and we have to learn about it so that we know what's happening. The reason that this comes up for me is because I get a lot of stories sent to me and stories that were generated on the internet that are not kind. It could be about different religious groups. It could be about different countries. It could be about famous people. It could be about politicians. And every time I get something that sounds too bad to be true or too good to be true, it gives me that inner sense that, wow, what a story. But when you look it up, it isn't true. And so that leads me to the place where I am right now because that idea is only going to get worse. So it started out as gossip, right? Or storytelling. Back in the day before the internet, we would just tell each other things. And especially if it came from a revered friend or a well-respected co-worker or maybe your beloved family member, of course you took that in as gospel truth. They said it. Of course it has to be true. Now, with the internet, we can actually research if it's true. And like gossip, lots of it isn't true. We're guarded about who people are and what they're doing. And then we also want to believe all the wonderful things, like you hear something that's just unbelievable. Somebody said all this wonderful stuff about our country and they're famous people. And when you look it up, they didn't say it at all. Well, why do we want to believe that? Because we think the old times is so much better than today. And that's false. Today is better than it's ever been in the history of mankind. And you're thinking, that's not true. Yes, it is. When you start to notice things like when I was flying just recently, everybody gets on the plane in an orderly fashion. Nobody's pushing and shoving, nobody's screaming, nobody's being belligerent. Everybody gets on, they put their stuff away, they sit down, they get situated, and they're not rude. Nobody's bumping into each other. It's just everybody's orderly. And the same thing happens while on the plane. People are very respectful. It's uncomfortable. We all know that. But nobody is getting out of sorts. And then when everybody gets off the plane, it's just so much in order. It's lovely to watch. But if you're not paying attention to that, then you miss that it's wonderful. So today is better than it's ever been because we are where we are. It's gone better than it's gone bad over the eons. So just think about that. Today is the best it's ever been for mankind. All right, so knowing that, we have to ask ourselves why we want to believe those icky stories that are circulating or why we want to believe the outlandish things, and especially when it's about something that we have no idea about. I do not know any politician. I don't. Personally, I've never had any one of them over to my house. I don't know any of them. Therefore, how can I make a judgment about them? I don't even know what their job would be like. All I know is I don't want to do it. But that's the thing about wanting to believe the negative. Now, AI, let's get back to that. AI can generate all sorts of stuff. It's wild to watch. There was a guy on the internet. He's a sales guy. He likes to sell stuff. And he was showing how you can make an AI generated person of you to sell stuff on the internet. Well, he looks like a regular guy, and then boom, it's this beautiful woman, gorgeous hair, skin, clothes, figure, everything. And that's him. She'll do the gestures that he's doing. She'll speak the words that he's speaking, but it's in her voice and she's doing it. Wow. So AI is an interesting beast. It can do all sorts of things and we just need to be aware. Like I was saying about that little kid dancing, people singing. It can also be almost anybody talking and they never said those words, but AI can make it like they did. You can see that I'm not AI. I'm real. If I was AI, I think I'd make it so I have less wrinkles and whatnot. But you just have to be aware of that. Now you may be wondering, why is this woman with white hair, this old lady, telling me about AI? Well, because I'm interested in it and I'm an educator, so I love to teach about things like that. But I have noticed it's destroying some of the trust that people have with things. And this goes to the news as well. The news doesn't use AI yet, I don't think. But the news also has sort of the same idea of leading us down a path and could be a little bit false walls because you can give a bend to any story that you want to tell. And so in the news, I've noticed that they want us to be afraid. If we were in where all these things were happening, there would be a portion of it that would be awful, let's say, but for the most part, it isn't. But yet what we get shown is the very, very worst of it. We're told about the horrible things in Australia, and we don't know what that's like there. We have no idea what it's like, but we want to believe that story. So what I always recommend is read the news. Don't listen to it. Don't have it given to you because you don't know what part of that is what they want you. I know I use they, what they want us to think. I want us to think what is real, what is true. So that goes back to what I teach in Get a Grip. Is that true? It's about your thoughts. It's about what you hear. It's about what you see. Because the old adage is you believe half of what you see and nothing of what you hear. And I like that adage. I do, because it's a good one. If you have three people experiencing the same exact experience, they'll have three different stories to tell, because that's how we are as people. Our upbringing, the way that we were raised, the environment we were raised in, the culture we were raised in, it influences us. And so we have this way of seeing things. Some people see it through rose-colored glasses, some people see it through dark glasses. But if three of us experience the same thing, there will be three different stories because of that, because of what our background is. The same sort of thing happens with the news, with the internet, with everything. You've got to know that everything has truth to it, but it's got a bend to it. It looks at the positive, the negative, the neutral, whatever. You just have to understand that that's what's happening. And so that's where I think we're being led to being fearful. And I don't like that, because then it makes people on edge. I can feel it when I'm out. I think you can too. And really, we don't need to be on edge. There is nothing that needs our anger. So I want us to pull back and be in the here and now. And the only thing you can control is you. The only thing I can control is me. And so we have to come back to the present moment. We have to quit worrying about what's out there, and we need to really work on what's here right now. Your family, your community, your workplace, all those things. You can be a great influence right there. And you can do it by only speaking the truth, not spreading rumors, not spreading things that you haven't researched, because that's how we get into trouble. Yes, there's some outlandish stories out there, but they aren't true. So that's where we don't perpetuate it by spreading it. We stay in our own lane, right? I'm staying in my lane, and I'm telling you what I know to be true. And I hope this helps you to spread it to other people too, because we need to support one another. We're in this together, and we need to be on the up and up. So I just watched the very tail end of an interview with Elon Musk, whether you like him or not. But anyway, it was at the tail end of him speaking at this World Economic Forum. And the very end, the interviewer said, "Do you have any final words?" And Elon said, "It would be better to live life as an optimist and be wrong than to live life as a pessimist and be right." And I agree with that. Why not be an optimist? Even if you're wrong, it makes you feel better. Let's look for the power of what can be rather than what somebody told us is. And that's why I wanted to talk about AI, because I see it leading people down a path of anger and distrust. And I don't want that, because that isn't what we need. That isn't true. That isn't what it is. It's just a partial truth. So I hope this helped. I hope that this makes sense for you, and I hope that you will share it with other people. And if you did like this, I want you to like and subscribe, please, because that helps me build my following. I'm going to really try to work on that this year, because if I'm the they, I want to make it a better way of living than other theys. I will talk to you later. Have a fabulous day. Bye.